At 15, I met my first boyfriend. I mean, at 15, you're holding hands and not, I mean, it wasn't anything intense, but it was amazing to be able to share that experience, that coming out experience with someone. He and I were sitting behind the school one day, just talking, and members of the football team came out of the school. You know, they yelled things that teenagers yelled back in the late 90s about being gay. And we took off running.
This documentary follows many media outlooks, perspectives, and personal journeys of conversion therapy. They show old photos, old artifacts, even their reading materials and their journals from this era of their life. This documentary brings a strong visualization to these stories. I'm thinking of the B roll footage alongside the story narrations, candles, the crawling through the blanket and facing the mirror sequence, the punching bag and the baseball bat. You hear about their relationships with religion, abuse, and suicide ideations. This is emotionally gripping and a great form of sharing empathy. They often go back to this construction of the model home. I love this scene where it's discussing suicide as a single chair. And as they dive deeper into the story, it reveals a crowd of chairs in the light, revealing the shame machine that exists that brings people to this form of abusive treatment. This documentary is informative and emotionally gripping and pushes us to continue the conversation outside of this. I connected with the person who is from my hometown, Louisville, Kentucky. There's an unspeakable level of understanding I have with them in a way I simply couldn't connect with anyone else in this film. And I wish nothing but the best for these survivors on their journey.
A really fantastic documentary, a filmmaker who tells his very personal story along with several others that he interviews, men and women. And he does it in a way that it's most comfortable for the viewer. He uses miniature house models like a dollhouse to help explain the stories. And I thought it was so stylish and smart. I was shocked to learn that nearly 700,000 LGBT people have gone through this. And despite a ban in many states, the ones that are the Bible Belt still let these centers function, and they're not based on science at all. They have a fellow who's an activist, Wayne, and he kind of says it all when he says it's all about the industry. Those in power, they're making money off this, and it's not going to go away.
It focuses on conversion theory and the effects, and we see the history, the evolution of this, while seeing how people are personally affected by this belief that you can convert someone that is homosexual back to being heterosexual. And, you know, a lot of these people are growing up in these homophobic households and having the idea that gayness is wrong instilled in them from a very young age. And it had a profound effect on these individuals and their upbringing and how they viewed life and how they viewed religion. And even in some of these conversion sessions, you know, you're seeing a human face put on these stories. And they're really opening up about these traumatic moments. But what is great about this documentary is how it comes full circle, and that you see the aftermath of people finding their way to their sexuality despite going through this. And some even finding the joy in after dealing with it was that because they went to this therapy, they were able to actually vocalize everything about their sexuality in a means, I guess, during the therapy to get it out so that they can be forgiven for it. But it actually had the reverse effect. It allowed them to be open about it for the first times in their lives, and it inherently released some shame around it. And you see in some cases, this conversion therapy affected their lives forever. And they went on and it negatively affected their ability to have physical relationships with men for a while or with women for a while. With some, it left a rift within family structures, but then some were able to reconnect with their parents because there was an understanding that their parents did not view it as a form of abuse, even though it was. And it was also good to see the protections to that community with all the bans for conversion therapy that are being put into place. The film uses a very clever convention of shots of a dollhouse and tiny furniture. To me, this was representative of the family units in the past and how people were forced by their families and organizations to live lives that were untrue or made them pretend to be what they were not. This pretense was also displayed with tiny therapy chairs in a circle. Beautiful, emotive soundtrack underneath the interviews. Happy to see governments are now taking this topic seriously with new legislation.
Expertly put together with real human interest. It's also an important topic, and as they say early on in the documentary, like a lot of people, namely Americans, they say aren't even aware it exists, or they think it's outdated and not used. So it's important to draw attention to it, and this documentary does that brilliantly. It's just so captivating and put together in such a cinematic fashion, but without being overtly flashy, because the stories and the content is absolutely enough, but it's just that extra layer. And I know this wasn't the point, but I really look forward to the little the inserts with the dioramas. I don't know why, it's cool. I liked it. So just to hear their stories, all of these different stories, see the through line, the theme, and get to yeah, really deep dive into conversion therapy and the pseudoscience behind it. All that was really it was insightful, somewhat eye opening. I knew that this stuff existed, but I don't. I agree with what they said in the documentary. I don't think a lot of people realize the level that it's still out there. And I had no idea there was something like, I think it says 700,000, nearly 700,000 Americans have been subjected to it. I had no idea it was that many.
In this documentary told their stories very well. You could feel their pain through the screen, what happened to them, why they felt ashamed. You could actually feel what was going on. You felt for them. They looked serious. They looked like they were reliving the trauma of what conversion therapy was. They were trying to make people aware of what was going on. You you very much believed them and knew what they were doing and why they were telling this story. And the fact that they started this documentary because people aren't aware of conversion therapy, or they are aware of it, but they're not aware of what it consists of. It's something that does need to be told.
Thoughtful and well-made documentary. Really great perspective and really great storytelling woven in throughout. Really important stories as well. And I really liked the visual element of the doll's house. I think it added um, substance to the stories and visual interest, as we had the voiceover moments, and I think it came together quite nicely towards the end of the documentary. A really important documentary for sure.